So now we're on to design number 3, using the same flowers and the same accessories. So don't miss this one. So if you've already seen this video and this video, then you know what flower choices come in. Welcome back. My name is Sharon. I'm on to the 3rd and final design using the same flowers. If you haven't seen those 2 previous videos, then pop back. But I'm using some green Molucella, some white Chinchirinchi, some white Gerbera, a couple of Christmas accessories, and I'm going to show you how versatile flowers can be and how I've used them in 3 different designs. Now, I'm not going to be able to tip this design forward for you to see because I've got a selection of vintage glass containers. These have all been picked up in charity shops and car boot sales, and I really love the way the light catches them and they sparkle, and all the wonderful textures of the glassware. But what I will do as we're going along is I'll bring the camera in a little bit closer so you can really appreciate what's happening within the design. Now this week I'm showing you how to reuse those flowers from the past 2 arrangements. And at the moment they're quite short. I've used them twice in the past and each time I'm cutting them down shorter. So I thought the final design would look really lovely presented in this selection of glassware. So I have this little bottle, I have this decorative container that came with a little spoon, so that's going to create a lovely vessel for me to put flowers into. I have 2 jugs, different shapes and different sizes, and I've arranged them alongside some smaller little vessels. These I think were probably Pond's cold cream or something back in the original day. This would have been part of one of those dressing table sets. And I've arranged them so that the taller containers are at the back. Under normal circumstances, these would be filled with water, but because I'm picking them up and tilting them forward for you to see, I haven't yet filled them. Now, what we're going to do with my little Christmas accessories, so we had those fabulous baubles. You'll see I've got a small amount of floral fix there on the bottom, and that's going to hopefully stop them rolling around as I'm working on the design. And I don't want to have them perfectly symmetrical, but I am going to spread out the colour. So this would be great for a coffee table. And when I originally used them in the previous arrangement, I'd inserted a florist wire to hold them into position. But for this design, I'm just going to sit them there inside the bowl. You might remember that I also had these decorative snowflakes, and these have come from Hobbycraft, and I'm going to turn these up on their sides. They have a profile, and I'm going to arrange them so that they're sitting around the little glass bottles. And if you don't have glass bottles like this, think about collecting small yogurt pots or those little yogurt drinks. They make marvellous containers. You might have some items in the house which are just small and very delicate. I'm arranging them in this quite decorative green and silver container. I'm just going to fiddle around with that one. But it could be on one of those plastic chargers that you use at Christmas, or if you're at home. I'm obviously in work, so I'm using the items that I've got here in work. But if you're at home, you could just make this straight onto a placemat on your table. So we'll just bring the camera in close there so you can see how that's coming together. Now obviously this is the bowl and it's only the centre section that's flat, so I've had to congregate all those little bottles towards the centre of my container. But there's nothing stopping you doing this in a long line. If you've got a piece of slate or an interesting piece of wood or bark, you could sit these containers on top. If you've got those little plastic yogurt drinks, and usually they're white in colour, you could spray paint them, or you could cover them in some string or some glitter or something to give it that festive look. If you remember back to the previous video, I also used some fairy lights. So this time I'm going to wind these around the base so that the light effect is going to really shimmer through those glasses. If you don't have fairy lights like me, then you could easily use some candles incorporated in there as well. Small little tea lights would work beautifully in this arrangement, and the flickering of the candle light would be really quite romantic and very atmospheric on your dining table. I'm going to start with one of the taller of the Molucella, and that's going to sit really nicely in the taller vase at the back. Now at the moment they're going to be a bit unstable because there isn't any water in the container, but for the purposes of the video that's going to be fine for now. And I'm not arranging them in any particular way. This is not a true still life arrangement, but when you're arranging flowers for a still life exhibit, you don't make any particular shape or place the flowers in any particular position. And I'm hoping that I haven't upset anybody there that's a judge, because that wasn't a very good description. But I'm just arranging them very naturally. I'm not trying to force them into a shape that they don't want to go. Now we have the Chinchirinchi, and what I think I'm going to do with these is cut them more so that they can be placed in the container together. So with the Molucella, I placed them in individual vases. These ones I think are going to suit that little container at the back that had the lid on it that would normally have had a spoon in it. We've got lots of different heights, so the design doesn't become flat. There's lots of movement within it, and the colour of my Molucella links really well with my container. Now, one of the benefits of the pine is this will last really well out of water. So I can even use this at the base to create some textural interest towards the bottom of my container. And what you can always do is change and swap around the greenery. As it starts to die off, you can replace it with something else. But things like the conifers, the pines, anything like hemlock or yew lasts a long time out of water. Now we're going to start to fill up that sweet little pot towards the front with some of the conifer. You can place two materials in at the same time. So here I've got some Molucella and the pine. Remember this lovely silver sprayed conifer, a nice cluster of that in my jug on the right hand side is going to work really well. And then I can add in a small gerbera at the same time. Now remember, my gerberas are a little bit damaged because I've used them several times. This is the third time now, and I think they're not looking too bad considering they've been in and out of floral foam. Cut them all to the same height and they can sit just in the back there. So again, we've got another shape alongside the tall linear piece of the Molucella. Imagine this just inside your hallway where guests are arriving for their Christmas dinner. You would smell all the lovely pine, and it's a design that's not going to be too overpowering as your guests arrive. Right, so I've spread out the gerbera so that we've got a gerbera sort of almost circularly arranged. Is that a thing? Circularly arranged? So my base is circular, so I've tried to make sure that the gerbera colour is at the front, the back and the two sides, but without making it perfectly symmetrical. So I love that. This is the type of design that I would quite happily do at home. And you know, if you've got grandchildren that you look after, or you've got young children at home, this would be a really good one to do after you've been for a walk. You could pick some cones, some fallen down branches and leaves. You could collect some textural bark and you could arrange them really nicely at home, and it would be a great opportunity for your youngsters to learn about flowers and foliages. If you've got trailing ivy, you could wind that round your base, and hopefully we've got a really interesting design coming together. So my last little bit of foliage is the white poplars, and I'm just really adding it in with that selection of gerbera there at the back. If you're looking down on it now, you can still see those large baubles. You can still see those snowflakes at the bottom. The conifer is also really long lasting when it's not in water. So I'm going to use some flat pieces in the base of my container just to hide the battery pack of my fairy lights. But what do we think of that? Is that something that you would have a little go at home? Now I'm obviously limited to the choice of flowers that I put in the 2 previous designs, but you could really use anything in here. It might be dried flowers that you're preparing during the autumn months. It could be supermarket flowers, it could be berries and different types of textured branches. But I'm hoping that even though that was a very quick video, this is something that you would have a go at home. Doesn't need to cost a huge amount of money. Just be quite resourceful with your containers and enjoy the experience. This is quite mindful and quite relaxing because you haven't got to think about creating shapes and balance and having a focal point. It's just about simply showing off the individual flowers. Thanks for watching. I hope you've enjoyed. Don't forget to join me on the Facebook group and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. Please hit that bell to be notified every time I upload a new video, and I look forward to seeing you again very soon. So bye for now.